Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Hi, welcome to Be My Guest. This is Jan Lewis. Today we have from Worcester, we have Burton Chandler, attorney Burton Chandler. He's retired, but he's so young. He has written a book. Now, some of you may not understand what this means at first, but I loved it. It's called How an Individual Citizen Can Legally Fire, Not Impeach, the President. Welcome, Burton.
Thank you.
How long, first of all, what made you decide to do this?
Well, I'm a thinker, and I watched the presidential primaries, and I watched what happened after the election, and I think I was concerned over the way it appeared that the president was conducting himself and that sort of thing. And it occurred to me that the manner in which he was governing the country and our relations with some of our foreign so-called allies was troubling, because some of our so-called allies have nuclear facilities also, and they regard life as a lot cheaper than we regard it. And the way President Trump seemed to be handling his foreign policy, I felt that he could antagonize the dictators of these other countries in such a way that maybe they just might drop a couple nuclear bombs on the United States and we wouldn't wake up. Then it also occurred to me from reading what he was saying and watching him on television that he was he never told the truth. He was mentally, he was a psychopathic liar, or a serial liar, whatever you want to call him. And I found that very disconcerting, that the president of our country was that type of a person whose word could not be relied upon. There were many other things that he did as we came along, and it was hard to understand. He treated people poorly. He hired only the best, but they either were fired or terminated within a very short period of time. And it was apparent that the White House was really not operating as it should be. I just thought there was something wrong with him. So one day I asked one of the younger attorneys in my office if, and I felt that impeachment was not the right way to do it. It took us a couple of years to go through the Nixon impeachment, and almost that much for the Clinton. And I don't think we have that kind of time to let this man, who doesn't tell the truth and appears to be a braggadocio of the highest order. He's got to be number one in the world on everything. I didn't really think we had that much time. So I had somebody look up to see whether there was any other technique to getting rid of the president. And within a very short time, he came back with the 25th Amendment. To be candid with you, I never heard of the 25th Amendment. It's very recent. It's in the 1960s or something like that. As I read it and reread it and reread it, I felt that it had a technique that, if it properly used, Congress could literally terminate him. I looked at it and read it and did a little research on it, and I thought, hey, let me write a book and get it across to people and see if anybody wants to do anything.
I had no idea either.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm trying to think, Burton, where did I read? It had to have been one of the newspapers about you and your book. Did one of them featured you? Was it the Telegram?
Oh, well, that was just like last week or so, a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, there's something where I read about it.
Yeah.
And just the title, I'm like, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, well, that's what caused you to call me, I think.
Yeah, definitely. The 25th Amendment of the United States Constitution. Burton, how long have you been in law? How long have you been a lawyer?
Pretty close to 60 years.
60 years.
Yeah.
So did you know when you got out of high school exactly what you wanted to do?
Well, I thought that I would, yes, I don't say exactly, but I was high on my list of things I would do.
You're going to go to, you went to Harvard.
Yes.
You went to Harvard. Were you are you a defense attorney or the prosecutor? What did you?
Well, I really did very little criminal law in my practice, mostly
Right.
civil law and that sort of thing.
It's always been in Worcester?
Yes.
All Worcester. And your wonderful wife, Harriet Chandler,
Yes, yes.
she is on a television show out of Worcester, and she's terrific.
You bet she is.
She never ages. I said, Harriet, you look great. She has a cute little haircut. I said, that's who Burton's wife is.
Right,
So
you
now,
got it, you got it.
I saw her face before I ever saw yours. Now, we'll go back to this. But Burton also wrote this book, Small Town Lawyer. I can't wait to read. What was this all about?
Well, a few years ago, I had a number of cases in the practice of my law practice, that if I really had had the same cases in a larger city,
Yeah.
they would have been national affairs. But because, with all due respect, they were in Worcester, there was nothing publicity-wise that anyone would know about.
Yeah.
And they were in the civil rights area and constitutional area. And I did trials, not criminal trials, but so I thought I would memorialize them, and I did. I brought the first case in the history of the city of Worcester against the Worcester Police Department for police brutality. Several policemen beat up 3 black people, and we went to federal court on that and prevailed.
Yeah.
And then I had a case in which a woman was deemed not attractive enough to defend us as a member of the United States Air Force.
Not attractive enough?
Yeah,
What year was that, though?
that was 1970,
Oh,
71.
no, wow, that would never fly now.
Well, it was flying then.
Yeah.
The United States Air Force had the same regulations for women and men,
Yeah.
but women had to submit pictures of themselves in 4 pre-described poses, and they could wear clothing but not slacks. And the pictures were sent to a general down in Texas.
Yeah.
And when we deposed the general, he said that nothing looks worse than than a formation of marching women with heavy legs. And I could say that I won that case, but really the night before it was going to trial, the government surrendered. And there were a few others like that in there.
Yeah.
And I thought they were all very, very interesting.
Now, Burton Chandler went to Phillips Exeter Academy
Yes.
in Exeter. I think you're going to laugh, but my first love in high school, my high school sweetheart, I think he went to Phillips Exeter Academy. He was a couple years older than me. It's supposed to be a really good school.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Yeah. Was it strict?
Well, but whatever, I can't define strict, and we all knew what we had to do and couldn't do and that sort of thing.
Probably not as loosey-goosey as public, right? We had more freedom.
Yeah.
Then, from there, Harvard College and then Harvard Law School in Cambridge.
Yes.
When did you write this book, Burton?
2013 was published.
Oh, in 2013. Okay, because I had not. No one has featured you. Did you give presentations on
I
it?
tell you, I didn't, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do, and nobody picked it up to publish it, and that's the way it went.
Well, you got to get out there and get people to know what's going on. Now we're going to go back to this most recent book, which did you write this last year?
Yes.
Okay, this took you about a year to.
No, this, I would say I had it printed about a month ago.
About a month ago. Did you go to that site online? A lot of self-publishers do, and it's great. It used to be CreateSpace, but it's something else now. Can't think of what it is, but they'll do it for you very, very well. How an individual citizen can legally fire, not impeach, legally fire the president. This could be any president. It doesn't have to be what we're talking about right now, but this is pretty good.
It's a novel.
Yeah.
I haven't used names of people,
Yeah.
but you can read into it what you wish. I have been to some publishers, and the publishing world is, and you probably know this better than I do, but it's different now than it used to be.
Yeah.
And publishing companies, some don't do certain types of areas, and some do. I wrote to several publishers who had political content as their part of their advertisements. But on 2 or 3 times they answered me and said they don't do fictional novels on political things.
But it's really not fiction. This is.
Well, That's how you define it. It's a novel,
Yeah.
and that by definition means it's not the 25th Amendment.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever brought a lawsuit that I've described in there,
Yeah.
so that there's no way I could have written it other than in the form of a novel, as far as I was concerned.
That was it. The 25th Amendment contains 4 sections dealing with the absence or removal of a president.
Yes.
4 sections.
Yeah. It was a. There has always been some type of a discussion about loopholes in the manner of appointing a president in the case of death or illness and things of that nature. And after the Kennedy assassination, the conversation got a little more. And in Washington, they put forth and they drafted this document. Now, it's a very small document, and it's included in my book. And considering the fact that it was written in a time in which I thought the legal profession was pretty sophisticated, I think it's a very poorly drafted document. There are many open spots in it and ambiguous spots in it. And the legal theory that I have concocted or drafted or reasoned, I think it will work, but I can't tell you for sure because nobody's ever brought it to court.
Not yet.
Not yet, no.
What do you perceive in your crystal ball? None of us really have one, but if you did, what's going to come down the pike?
Well, let me tell you what my theory is first. The Section 1 and Section 2 of the 25th Amendment really are not applicable to what we're discussing. Section 4 says that if the Vice President and a majority of the Cabinet send a declaration to both houses of Congress saying that they don't feel that the President is fit for the job, that Congress has both houses of Congress have 21 days to hold investigations whether they agree or not.
Well, that's not a very long time.
Correct, but all right. Now, during that 21 days, the President automatically, when that declaration is sent, the President automatically loses his job.
So the Vice President steps in.
And he becomes Vice President.
Okay.
Or acting President.
The Vice President becomes the acting President.
Yes. And Section 3 says that if the President himself feels he is no longer capable of the job, he can send such a declaration.
Yeah. But when Nixon resigned, he didn't sign that. He didn't send one of those. He didn't do it. He just got it on television. I know I was just.
I don't believe it had. I think this came after Nixon. Yeah.
Yeah, after Nixon. Yeah. He just got on and resigned. He didn't.
I don't think the 25th Amendment was whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's not precedent on this. There are no cases under this case yet, under this amendment yet.
So we're fine. So if Trump, they found out that, let's just say, if it was President Trump or any president, if he wasn't qualified, the people, then what would happen is that they would have.
Well, he's already been acting, and the Vice President would become the President.
Mike Pence would be President.
Right.
Okay.
Now, Section 3 is if the President himself felt that he was losing a butt, he can send a declaration.
But how many would do that, though, I wonder?
Well, that's another part of the ambiguity of the 25th Amendment.
Yeah.
And the same arguments would occur. Now, what occurred to me was that the language in the Third and the Fourth Amendment, it starts, the third or fourth section of the 25th Amendment, start off whenever the President sends the declaration, or whenever the Vice President and the Cabinet send the declaration, it triggers the 25th Amendment. Now, the 25th Amendment at this point becomes ambiguous because you don't know whether or not the President and the Vice President and the Cabinet, whether they have to personally believe it, whether maybe somebody else believes it but they don't. And as we stand here today, we can argue that the President, that the Vice President, and the Cabinet are stonewalling the issue. Yeah. So how do you force them to do it?
Yeah.
Well, the 25th Amendment says that, whenever they send these declarations, automatically the president loses his right to govern. The next question would be is, does the 25th Amendment say that all these people, the president, the cabinet, the vice president, do they have to personally believe it?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that the use of the word whenever was a very peculiar, I thought the use of the word declaration was a very peculiar word. It didn't say letter, it didn't say opinion. So I looked up what in law the word declaration means. And the dictionaries in the legal world say that a declaration is an unsworn allegation.
Okay, an unsworn allegation.
So now, if I want to make that into an order,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll tell you why it should be an order, or a command rather than a personal opinion, is that there is ample precedent that if somebody in the government, like the president or the vice president or the cabinet members, are given by statute a command or an order,
Mm-hmm.
And there are no standards for determining whether or not a person is mentally fit or not mentally fit,
Sure.
that the rule would be what an ordinary person thinks.
Okay,
That's the leap.
that's the leap right there.
Yeah. So if I go along with the fact that I believe that an ordinary person would think there's a problem, then I could then bring what is known as a writ of mandamus.
A
W-R-I-T.
writ of...
Mandamus. M-A-N-D-A-M-U-S.
Okay.
A lot of people haven't heard of it, but it's a very old and solid and respected legal principle going back hundreds of years that says that if a government official, such as the people we're talking about, refuse to carry out an order, then a writ of mandamus can issue.
A citizen can issue that.
Yeah, that's a good question. As far as I can see, as the 25th Amendment is written, an ordinary citizen can go out and hire a lawyer. And if the lawyer determines that the facts are good enough and the law is good enough, he can bring a writ of mandamus. And he doesn't have to ask the government's permission to do it. Doesn't have to go to
So
Congress.
you could do this, Burton, right?
Well, if I were physically able to do it and all that sort of
sure.
thing.
Yeah.
But, so the book I wrote is a fictional novel, but it's a textbook of how any lawyer anywhere who wanted to bring a writ of mandamus would go about doing it. I even have a sample of a writ of mandamus in there.
Yeah.
And my point would be that if somebody gave this book a little publicity, not only could there be a lawsuit started in the District of Columbia where it's easy service of process on the vice president and the cabinet members, because that's where they live and they go to work and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if the president should fail to send a letter when we think there's a problem,
Yeah.
he can be served process in 10, 12, 15 states anytime he goes out of the state to.
Yeah.
All right? So there could be a number of copycat cases all over the country.
Yeah.
Now, at that point, the president's got to worry. Whether I'm right in my legal theory or I'm not, it will have to be something that is brought in the judicial system, the federal system. Every time something is ruled on, there'll be an appeal.
Mm-hmm.
During this time, it's likely that the 21-day period will be extended.
Sure.
The president won't be president. If he were denied the right of being president, for 2 days he'd go out of his mind.
Yeah.
But with all those cases going on, with different judges in different federal jurisdictions, who knows? Some judge may ask him to go for a psychiatric test,
Mhm.
and he's not going to do that. And then his tax returns will be vulnerable, because if he rules and grants the writ of mandamus, Congress has the right to hold hearings, and it's no question that they would have to ask the judge to order a mental examination,
Sure.
or maybe they have the authority to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it's going to be such an enormous amount of publicity and pressure. And if there are copycat cases in other jurisdictions, the president isn't really going to know that he's going to win them all.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially if he gets some liberal judges who are sitting there before it gets up to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And that combined with the pressure of the Mueller and the 3 women who were suing him.
New York now, is it in New York? Something in New York they're coming up about taxes.
And various lawsuits are being started in that. Yeah, I mean, there are so many lawsuits that are pending now and will be pending against him in the normal course.
Yeah.
That I can see this president someday just getting up and saying to the country, look, I don't deserve this. The Democrats hate me, and they're making it impossible for me to live here. I apologize for you, American citizens, for leaving you in this mess, but I resign. That's where I'm getting.
Yeah, it won't be. I remember, I was just a kid, but I remember seeing Nixon, and it was on a Saturday night. I think it was a Saturday night. I remember.
Well, the Saturday Night Massacre.
That was. We are talking with he's a retired attorney, Burton Chandler from Worcester, and he has written a book that caught my eye right off the bat, and you can interpret it any president you wish. How an individual citizen can legally fire, not impeach, the president. Where can they get a hold of your book?
Right now, since I don't have a publisher, right now my name is Burton Chandler, and I live at 770 Salisbury Street, apartment 525, Worcester, Massachusetts.
How about an email?
01609. My email is cederlaw, S-E-D-E-R, law. B. Chandler at cederlaw.com.
At Cedar Law. You've been with Cedar Law for quite a while. That was the first one you came?
Well, it's Cedar and Chandler now, yeah.
You were the first one that was the first one you went to, right? The only one?
Yeah.
Did they court you when they heard you had come out of Harvard, or did you go to them and ask? Do you remember?
It's not worth discussing.
60 years is a long time to be with one place.
They were terrific people. I learned a lot from them.
People don't these days, if you notice, they don't stick with something more than a year or two.
Oh, it's a different legal world than it was today than it was back then. A totally different world.
Yeah. Well, you think you were valued more back then?
Valued more?
Yeah, as a lawyer, they wanted to hang on to the good ones and longer. Or the good ones didn't bolt like they sometimes do now.
I think that what has happened in the legal profession now is that there are law firms that are so huge, like thousands of partners now. There are law firms in which they are national and international firms, and the partners don't even know each other.
Yeah.
They didn't have that in my day. No. We had 7 or 8 people in our law office when I got in there, and I think we were the 3rd largest firm in Worcester. Yeah. It's a different world now than it was.
It is.
And incidentally, the legal fees, the lawyers make much more money now than they did in those days, too.
Well, now, Small Town Lawyer, is this about you? Is it kind of, it's about yourself and how you got into this?
It's several cases, an essay. It's a case-by-case description of what the 7 or 10 cases that I had that were unusual. Yeah.
Same place you can get him, his same email?
Yeah.
Now, you haven't been getting out and giving any book signings or anything like that, right?
I spoke to the Harvard Club yesterday.
Okay.
And I'm trying to arrange something, but I haven't.
Yeah, it's fun. You know where it would be great is something like, it's in Westboro, Chattanooga.
Yes, you told when you were letter you mentioned.
Chattanooga would be great. That. There's lots of places around. I think it's.
I've sent letters to Congress and other people. I want to get some notice in this thing.
You know, and also here in Worcester, all the different, both sides, bipartisan, there's going to be a lot of people who would be very interested in this book.
I would think so.
Oh, yeah. Did you think that it would be popular when you wrote it?
I hoped it would be.
Now, you are retired, but you're still helping out, right? You're still dealing with the law.
Well, yes.
You do? Like part-time?
Part-time, very part-time.
I have never met you now. I was kidding with him about the Worcester Courthouse. He gave me a good answer. The seats upstairs for the people, most of us ended up on the floor because, it gets so packed in the morning, 9 o'clock, it's packed, waiting for the juvie court.
Oh, I didn't do any work in the juvenile.
Oh, yeah, well, it's a blast. But anyway, we'd run out of seats, and they were hard, like marble. So finally, I'm like, the heck with this. I'm not going to fight with you. I just get down on the floor. People, what are you doing on the floor? I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? Stand here for 3 hours? It's a whole different world up there.
Well, it was, even in the old courthouse, where I spent most of my career, the juvenile courts, the probate courts, they all have their own courtrooms and their own administration.
I remember juvie used to be in the basement part. We'd walk down this.
Well, when I started practicing, there wasn't a juvenile court anyways.
There was?
Juvenile court was put in, Probably in the late 60s or
Really?
mid-60s.
What do
First
they-
juvenile judge was a good friend of mine, Lucian Manzi. He was in that same building I was in.
Okay, there's a juvenile judge, woman. She's very good. I can't think of her
Martha
name.
Grace, which became the...
Yeah, but there's another one too. She's blonde hair. She's been in there a lot. I can't think of her name. What are they going to do with the old courthouse building?
They are... I just read the other day that the deal to make it into housing was solved, and they expect it to take place in 220 or something like that.
Will it be housing for all affordable or for seniors?
I forget what it was. It wasn't just for seniors.
Will it be affordable? Oh.
I
When
think
what's the
both. I think
definition of affordable, you know?
Well, they do it in the statute. They put some definition of it.
Well, we've got about 2 minutes left. We've been talking with Burton Chandler. Burton, again, how can they reach you by email to get a copy of your book?
B. Chandler at Cedar Law, SEDER, Cedar Law, all one word, .com.
Get a copy. Just contact him. There's
Right.
also a copy downstairs in the Upton Town Library. Free to
And
borrow
it
that.
costs $16.95.
Very fair for what you're going to learn from this. My goodness. Have you got any other books coming up?
I'm not going to tell you.
I'll usually authors say, yeah, I've got another one coming up.
That's why I'm not going to tell you.
Ah, is it going to be political?
Could be conceived.
Perhaps, huh? What about your kids? Do they enjoy what you write? The grown kids.
They tell me they do.
How about Harriet? Does she read them?
Oh, she says, absolutely great.
Of course, she's a smart girl.
Right.
She's a smart girl. You've got another one coming up. Will you let me know so that we can have you come back again and talk about your books?
You bet I will.
Very much so. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
on. Love the
Thank you.
title, How an Individual Citizen Can Legally Fire, Not Impeach, the President. Keep an open mind.
If you do it by yourself, you don't have to go to ask government for position.
No.
It's a matter of, if an attorney were to see my book and want to take the case, he could go get a client somewhere,
Yep.
and within a week he could be in the court, because I've got the complaint and the statute right in front of him, and I tell him what to do. You would need to go into court. You would need a pollster expert and some psychiatrists.
Yeah.
The pollster expert would say on polls that we have around that are on television all the time, et cetera,
Yeah.
any reasonable person out there would think that there's a problem here.
Sure.
And the psychiatrists, and they are all over the place, and they're holding meetings all over the country, because I've spoken to various members, and the number one topic is the president lost his marbles, or did he ever have them? And it will not be difficult to get
I always question, is it a personality disorder combined with a mental illness? Or just personality disorder is a whole different animal? There's no medicine for that.
I don't think it's phrased in those terms. It's phrased in terms of he is a pathological liar,
Yeah, there are.
and he is a braggadocio. He is a braggart of the highest nature.
Grandiosity.
And a personality type of thing.
Yeah.
And I think the final conclusion is mentally unstable.
Yeah, I don't know. None of us have ever seen anything like it.
Well, I tell you, as a layman sat there before I wrote this book and watched it all on television and everything, it's quite clear to me there's something wrong with the guy.
Yeah, I know.
And saying he's mentally unstable, I think, truly is the one of the most accurate ways of determining it.
It's kind of sad because maybe had he had a different approach, he might have been a great president. You never know.
Well, he might not have gotten where he is if he had a different approach.
Yeah. Thank you, Burton, for being with us.
Thank you.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
We'll see you next time with you, my guest.